Right now, the Conservatives are cracking down on telecommunications companies, limiting the competitive market. Ottawa has declined an application by one of the big three to buy up a smaller cell phone provider. The Tories say Canadians need more choice before signing on to a costly contract. Jessica Hume joins us now live from Ottawa. It's a story that many people are talking about. So this comes from an announcement today by the industry minister. You were there for it. Yeah, break it down for us now.
All right. Well, the way, as I'm sure most Canadians are painfully aware, we have three big telecom companies in Canada, Bell, Rogers, TELUS. And the way things set up right now is that they basically have complete market share. And of course, we all know what the implications are in terms of the prices we pay for whatever service it is we receive. So back in 2008, the federal government decided to set aside a certain amount of spectrum for new companies, new startup telecom companies, so that they could enter the market and provide Canadians with more competition. The idea being that our prices would go down and the quality of our service would go up. Now what we're seeing today is the fact that many of those companies that did take advantage are not doing so well. They're struggling. So I'm talking about Mobilicity, Public Mobile, Wind Mobile, and the like. So TELUS, so one of the big three, had offered to buy Mobilicity for the price of $380 million. And one of the things we heard this morning from Christian Parity, the industry minister, was that the government had blocked that sale. And the reason why, as he put it, was because that spectrum that was set aside for these small companies was not intended to be resold back to the big three if those companies fail. So before I go on, let's listen to Christian Parity explaining this in his own words, broken English as much as they may be.
I've been clear. The government has been clear. Spectrum set aside for new entrants was not intended to be transferred to incumbents. That is why we had put in place restrictions on the transfers of the set-aside spectrum. That is why I will not be approving this or any other transfer of set-aside spectrum to incumbents ahead of the 5 years limit.
Okay, so Christian Parity speaking, and his speech aside, let's talk about, Jessica, what this actually means to the consumer. This is really important. More competition, better prices?
Right. Well, what he said shortly after that clip there was that he wanted to see 4 telecom companies in each region of the country. So they're maintaining the spectrum to be set aside. But the problem is here that many of these new entrants, they're not doing well. And it goes beyond just having spectrum set aside. So Michael Geist, who is he speaks on internet issues. He's a lawyer, specializes in internet issues. He speaks on this all the time. The way he put it was that this was basically the government doubling down on a bet that they'd made several years ago, and that being that if they leave the spectrum aside, all of those new entrants together will form basically like a fourth competition, a fourth group that within the Canadian telecom market. But that hasn't happened. So while in theory the more companies pop up, the lower our prices should get, the reality is that those new companies are not having an easy time starting up. And part of the reason why is because the Canadian telecom market has been dominated by the big three for so long that by the time companies like Wind, Mobilicity arrived on the scene, they arrived in markets that were already completely saturated with the existing companies.
Makes sense. All right, Jessica Hume joining us live from Ottawa. Thank you.
You're welcome.